I didn't know they were watching me. I didn't know the wine was spiked. But when I heard them whispering at my door, I realized I was never supposed to wake up. This isn't some creepy pasta or a story made up for clicks. It's what really happened to me in my first year of college. And I haven't told anyone until now. You started this year full of hope, didn't you? New classes, new people, a new chapter. I'm Katarina. I'm 21. And when I got into the University of Maryland, I didn't care that I applied late. I was just thrilled to be in. But applying late meant fewer housing options. I didn't get to choose my roommate. All I knew was that I'd be sharing a dorm with another girl. And I prayed, please God, don't let her be a nightmare. Then I met Aubrey, strawberry blonde, glowing skin, pink, everywhere, even her toothbrush, and her first words, "Oh my God, pink's my favorite color too." She squealed, hugged me, and in that moment, I let my guard down. I thought I'd won the roommate lottery. She was sweet, too sweet. We had weekly wine mom nights, watched Gilmore Girls, joked about applying to Yale, laughed over sushi, and cheap Chardonnay someone older helped us buy. She told me I had a cute accent. I told her boyfriend was cute. Nick, quiet, gentle, polite. We felt like sisters, and I trusted her. It was a Friday. We were supposed to start only murders in the building that night. But just before 6, Aubrey got a text. Her boyfriend's schedule shifted. He could only see her that night. She apologized, hugged me. "We'll watch it next week, promise." So, I stayed in, ordered sushi, poured a glass of wine, then another, and by the time I got halfway through the second glass, something was wrong. I wasn't tipsy. I was trembling. I felt hot and cold at the same time. My legs buzzed, my stomach lurched, my head spun. I assumed it was bad sushi. I'd had a reaction before, so I tried what worked last time. I forced myself to throw up. It helped. Kind of. I took a shower, set an alarm for 10 p.m., crawled into bed around 8:30. Still shaky. Maybe I was just tired. That's what I told myself. Then, I woke up 10:03. I thought I'd just slept lightly, until I heard voices in the hallway. Aubrey, Nick. I was confused. Why were they back? Then I heard Nick's voice, low, urgent. "Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure?" Aubrey whispered, "Yes." She drank half. We only had one glass each before I slipped it in. "She'll be out for hours." That's when I knew. The wine wasn't bad. It was drugged, and I wasn't supposed to wake up. Nick said, "Should I turn on the light?" Then, the door handle turned. I sat up, just as the lights flipped on. Their faces went pale. I wasn't supposed to be awake. I had tears in my eyes. Not from the fear, but the betrayal. Aubrey had made me feel safe, like family. And she was about to hand me over to someone, or worse, join him. But I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I smiled and said, "Just tired, I'll go back to sleep." They bought it, and that's what saved me. As soon as they left, I called the only person I could think of, a guy I'd just started seeing. I didn't tell him why. I just said, "Come get me, now." He showed up 10 minutes later, helped me down the stairs. We drove to his place. He thought I was drunk. He didn't know I was nearly gone. I called the cops. They told me to go to the hospital, to test my blood. I did. But when they went back to the apartment, the wine bottle was gone. Aubrey and Nick were gone. No fingerprints, no footage, just my word. And the drug, still in my bloodstream. I never saw her again. She never came back to campus. Never texted, never apologized, never faced a single consequence. But I still wake up sometimes wondering what would have happened if my body hadn't fought back, if I hadn't thrown up, if I'd stayed asleep just 15 minutes longer. Sometimes people ask me how I knew it wasn't just a misunderstanding, and I tell them, because when someone's trying to save your life, they don't whisper outside your door, asking if the dose was enough. Are you sure she's out? She drank half. If you've ever had a near miss like this, or felt danger in a place that should have been safe, tell your story in the comments. You never know who needs to hear it. Hit subscribe, and stay safe out there. At first I thought I'd found the perfect roommate, clean, quiet, respectful. But by the time I locked him out of the apartment, I knew the truth. He was a liar, a manipulator, and someone who almost killed me. This is how a normal flatmate became the most dangerous person I've ever met. Summer of 2008. I was 20, still living with my mom, and slowly losing my mind. We weren't fighting, not exactly, but every day started to feel off, like I didn't belong under the same roof anymore. So I decided to move out, found a decent flat near the city. Rent was brutal, so I needed a roommate. Fast. That's when I thought of Andrew. He was a bit weird, yeah, but we'd shared beers, hung out, talked music and movies, seemed harmless. He needed a place. I needed help with rent. It felt logical. So we shook hands, and for the first month, he was perfect. He worked part-time at a bar I helped him get into, paid his half of the rent, cleaned his dishes, even kept the music down when I had early shifts. I actually felt proud. I'd made a good choice. But then, late one night, I came home and saw something I wasn't supposed to. A payslip, left out on the table. And the total? $37.38. I stared at it like it was a typo. There was no way that covered the nights he said he'd worked. No way it paid for his beers, his food, his rent. And yet, he was still going out, still spending, still working those nights. So where the hell was the money coming from? Then came Julia. Quiet, sweet, a little shy. The kind of girl you hope finds someone decent. Andrew started dating her. We weren't close, but one night we bumped into each other at a late-night McDonald's, and we started chatting. She mentioned something offhand, something I'll never forget. With Andrew's new assistant manager position, we barely get to see each other. Assistant, manager, Andrew was a barback, barely pulling shifts. There's no way he was promoted, he lied. Straight through his teeth. And suddenly, that 37er payslip wasn't just about money. It was about how deep the lies went. One day I couldn't find my phone charger. Asked Andrew. He swore up and down he hadn't touched it, but something told me to check. So I did. And when I opened his bedroom door for the first time in 5 months, I gagged. The smell hit me like a wall. Plates with rotting food, mugs with thick mold crusts, socks so stiff they stood on their own, clothes, bottles, wrappers, everywhere, and my charger, half buried under a pizza box. He never had girls over because his room was a biohazard. Not out of respect, not because we agreed to be quiet, because he was hiding. I started connecting the dots. He was lying to me, lying to Julia, lying to everyone. I didn't want drama. So I stayed quiet until his new coworkers showed up at my bar. You're Ralph, right? Yeah. We work with Andrew. He said you'd hook us up with free drinks. What? He'd told them I owed him, that I was some jobless, sickly roommate he was supporting out of pity, that he paid most of the bills, that he kept the place clean. I told one of them the truth outside, calmly, showed her the picture of his room. She stared at it in shock. What I didn't know was that Andrew had been sleeping with that same coworker, the one I'd just shown the truth to. She was crushed and furious, and after confiding in a law student friend, she found out something terrifying. In the UK, it's a crime, violation by deception, lying to manipulate someone into consent. A conviction could mean 10 years in prison, and Andrew, he didn't take it well. A few days later, I walked out of my flat for a shift. A car's headlights flashed behind me. Bright, blinding. It was speeding up, toward me. I jumped out of the way as it screeched up onto the pavement, missing me by inches. Then the door opened. Andrew stepped out, calm, focused, opened the trunk, pulled out a golf club. I backed up, pulled out the tiny bartender knife I carried on my keychain. It was pathetic, but I waved it anyway. He kept walking toward me. He hit me once, in the ribs. Before a neighbor screamed that the police were coming, he ran, drove off. I was left there, shaking, breathless, clutching my side. He was arrested later, charged, but because he pled guilty and had no priors, he got a suspended sentence, walked free. He vanished, moved away. No one's seen him since. And me? Sometimes I wonder if he'll come back, if he still hates me enough to finish what he started, if he's still lying to someone new. If someone's ever lied their way into your trust, or if you've ever had to escape someone who seemed normal, tell your story in the comments. It matters more than you know. Hit subscribe and stay safe. The girl who watched me move in. I thought she was just curious, a neighbor, a stranger, a face at the window. But then I realized she was never watching the neighborhood. She was watching me. It was a Monday when I moved in. Rainy, cold, the kind of quiet that sticks to the walls. I'd just signed a lease on a tiny studio unit in a half-empty building. It was cheap. That was the only thing I cared about. No roommates, no shared kitchen, no drunken yelling through the walls. Just me and the silence. At least that's what I thought. It was maybe 8 p.m. I was eating Chinese food on the floor, watching a YouTube documentary on my phone, and then I noticed a face. In the apartment building across from mine, 3rd floor, curtains barely pulled back. She wasn't doing anything. Not cooking, not talking, not watching TV, just standing there, looking down at my window. I figured I'd startled her. Maybe she thought I was looking at her. So I waved, just a little flick of the fingers. She didn't move, didn't blink, just kept staring. Then, slowly, she stepped backward into darkness. The next night, she was there again. Same time, same place, same posture. I started timing it. Between 8:03 and 8:15 p.m., she would appear behind the glass, never doing anything, just watching. I even asked the old guy who lived in the unit next to mine if he knew who lived over there. He nodded and said, "That one? Been empty for months." I asked again. He looked me in the eye and said, "No one's rented it since the fire." By week 3, I started to feel wrong. I'd come home and small things would be off. My charger unplugged, my shampoo slightly moved. The drawer I never use cracked open by half an inch. Nothing was missing, but everything felt touched. I changed the locks. I even installed a cheap little camera facing my front door. But the next morning when I checked the feed, there were 3 minutes of corrupted video. Between 2:42 and 2:45 a.m., just static. Then, clear footage. Me, asleep on the couch. And the door, still locked. I took a picture, just to prove she was real. I aimed my phone through the blinds, zoomed in across the street, and hit capture. At first glance, nothing unusual. But when I zoomed in, her hand was pressed against the glass. Not palm flat, not fingers outstretched. She was pointing, not randomly, not at the building, at me, through 2 windows, across 30 feet of air. Her finger was aimed straight at my face. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat with my back to the door, holding a kitchen knife in both hands. Sometime around 2:30, the static came back, not just on the camera, on my laptop, my phone. The lights flickered, then a knock, 3 slow taps on the door. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. Then a whisper came through the metal. "You shouldn't have taken that picture." The next day, I went to the building manager across the street, told him I needed to file a report, that someone was using the vacant unit to spy on people. He looked at me confused and said, "That building's been condemned since last winter." We walked up together. He used a master key. The door creaked open to a rotting, dust-covered apartment. Cobwebs, burnt beams, no furniture, no electricity, nothing, except a mattress in the corner, and on the wall above it, a collection of photos. All of me. Moving in, watching TV, sleeping. I left that apartment the same night. I didn't even bother packing. I don't know who she was. I don't know what she wanted. But I know this. Sometimes when you feel like you're being watched, you are. And sometimes the person watching is already inside. If you've ever felt eyes on you in the dark, you're not alone. Drop your story below and subscribe. Be